permanent relief. The Bible also says something else about how we should view a memorial like this that we're having for John. And it says this, it's in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. And it might seem a bit unusual when you first read it, but here's what it says. A good name is better than good oil, and the day of death is better than the day of birth. Better to go to the house of mourning than to the house of feasting. How can that be? How can the day of one's death be better than the day of one's birth? Well, it's all got to do with the name we make for ourselves, because when a person is born, when I was born and all of us were born, we were just a blank slate. We didn't have anything to our name yet. But at the time of our death, we've lived a lifetime and we have had the opportunity to make a good name for ourselves. So that's how it is more important to think of that day of death being better. How about when it says it's better to go to the house of mourning than to the house of feasting? How can that be? How can it be better to come to this arrangement and not go somewhere else where you have a lot more fun? Well, the reason for that is coming to a house of mourning actually helps us to reflect on our lives as we reflect on the life of the one we are mourning. And we can see if we are actually in need of making any changes and if we're making a good name for ourselves. So with those thoughts in mind, let's look at John and the name he made for himself. So we know John as being a quiet, more shy person, very understated, never bragged about anything. But in his years, John loved sport. He loved playing and watching baseball, basketball. In fact, when he was at school, he was on a basketball team, and the name of the team was the Rhinos. He also loved playing tennis, and he loved snow skiing. So all those things, strong outdoor activities that John loved. When you came in and you saw the photo on the desk, you can see also that John had a love for animals. That picture of John there with Sully, his dog, shows that, and John loved his cats as well, right? So he was a dog and a cat man. One thing that stands out to a lot of us who know him is that John loved music. Jason, John's brother, said that when he was about 12 years old and John must have been about 18, there's 6 years difference between them, but he would come home and John's door, his bedroom door, would be closed and all you would hear was the strumming of a guitar, because he loved playing it so much and he practiced and practiced and became, obviously, as we know now, really, really good at it. In fact, when he was at school, he played in a school band. They called themselves the Dukes. So here's a little information from Jason and Tony, John's brother and sister. They both agreed that John was exceptionally smart. He was a very clever man, and he was a clever student at school as well. He always got really good scores and was able to do it with quite little effort, which probably annoyed some of the other people. But Jason said that when he graduated, he'd go in, he'd see in John's room, and there was this huge stack of invites inviting John to go to different colleges. And according to Jason, it was a big stack. It wasn't, this. It was a big stack of invites. So that gives you an idea that they were anxious to have him come to their college because they knew he was going to be a star student. So, what did John do? Well, there's two scriptures that John knew about and that he always would have been talking to other people about. And let's have a look at them. First one's in Matthew, and it's in chapter 24 and verse 14. And we've used this scripture a lot. It's something that was very important to John. There it reads, "And this good news of the kingdom will be preached in all the inhabited earth for a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come." That was one scripture that stuck to John's heart. And another one is in Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 and 20. So if we go there to chapter 28, and we'll just read 19 and a little bit of 20, it says, this is Jesus' command to his disciples. He said, "Go therefore and make disciples of people of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all the things I have commanded you. And look, I am with you all the days until the conclusion of the system of things." So Jesus took those words to heart. John took those words to heart. And what he decided to do was ignore that pile of invitations, and he decided to pioneer work as a full-time servant of Jehovah, work part-time, and serve him fully that way. So what a great example that was, and John certainly made a good name for himself doing that. In fact, when John and Julie got married, they were able to pioneer together for 6 years. So that must have been a real blessing. John loved Julie. A sister in our congregation observed this. John loved to see Julie happy. If Julie was enjoying herself, John would look at her with a big smile on his face and always be really close. So that's just an observation that people make, and some of you probably have too. John, we all know John too as a construction worker. He was a real fine carpenter and worked in construction. But you might wonder, well, how did he get into that line of work? Well, John was in Eastern Washington and he was working at a tyre shop. And while he was at that tyre shop, they were putting an addition onto that tyre shop. And John was observing the construction that was going on as this work was going on. And he looked at it, and over the course of time, as he was watching this while putting tyres on, he thought, I could do this. And the reason John wanted to do it was not for some selfish reason, because he wanted to get rich or make a lot of money. The reason was his mother's house burned down, and he wanted to rebuild the house for her. And so he decided he was going to learn how to build, and he did that. He rebuilt his mother's house. It took him 2 years to do it, but he did accomplish it. So John used those skills throughout other parts of his life. For a while, he did go and work on construction at the Bethel Complex in New York for a 2-week period. John worked on various Kingdom Hall projects, including this one. There's some items in here that John did construct and make, some carpentry. And people describe his work ethic. They always said he was slow, he was calm, he was deliberate, but his work was always of high quality. He actually came to our house, to our apartment, and we were remodeling inside, and I had him come and do some work that I was not smart enough to do. And an interesting thing I noticed about John is that while he was working, he would talk to himself, and he'd actually say what he was doing, and you could hear him whispering it to himself. So you know that he was doing things really, really methodically. So once again, I mean, we can say it again, John was quiet, he was understated, he never bragged, but his work spoke a lot more about him. Well, now let's get to the music part. John was a very accomplished musician. He played the guitar really well. He had lots of practice. Here in Bellingham, he played with a band here. It was called the Elderly Brothers. And I think that was a play on words. So you can figure a few things out there. But they played together for 14 years. There were 5 members. John played a very important role in that band. He was a singer and a lead guitarist. And there was also Steve, Aaron, Dennis, and Jared. And John was the one who always arranged the playlist when they ever performed anywhere and did anything. He was the one who picked the songs out, the order they were going to be played in, because he was just the man who knew how to do that. Dennis said this about John. He never started over a song if we got off on the wrong foot. He would just plough through the song until it straightened itself out. Another elder in our congregation said this about John and about his music. He said, John gained so much joy, peace, satisfaction, comfort, and hope from his music. And another comment from someone else was, he was comfortable in his own skin up there when he was playing. You could see that John certainly was no longer the quiet, reserved person because he felt so comfortable playing the music. Steve, one of the band members, who is here now, I'm going to read what he said. He says, playing music with John was a treat for me. It seemed he knew every song written, and as you started playing one, he would join in with the right chords and sing most of the words. We could read each other's expressions and where to go next as we played. Then you see him smile. He really enjoyed playing without any drama or ego. It was a real pleasure that I will never forget. Playing with all in the band was always fun, but it was because of John. He was the heart of it. Thank you, John. So you can see what an incredible, important part he had in that, in the band. John was a spiritual man. He had responsibilities in the congregation. He served as an elder. I can remember for years, we have to go back in time a little bit, when we used to have a ministry school and a ministry school overseer. John did that job for a long time. He was also the Watchtower study conductor for a long time, and everyone always made comments that he was such a good teacher and a good Watchtower study conductor. And I noticed that too. It was incredible. He conducted a book study and had meetings in their home, John and Julie's home. They opened that up for people to come there and have meetings. And John, being an elder, he went to elders' meetings. And this is what an elder said about John when he was at the elders' meetings. It says, while John was a quiet person, he was always loving, thoughtful, and kind. During elders' meetings, it was evident that he had done his homework. His comments helped the body reach a proper conclusion. So how important that was, and John was such a good example in that. John and Julie together were known for their kindness. John and Julie were long-time caregivers. Long time. John's mum Mabel first, who lived with them here in Bellingham, and later Nancy and Carol, taking care of them as well. So they set a really fine example in being unselfish in that way. John was always looking out for ways to help others when he saw that they maybe needed some encouragement as being caregivers. So I got this information from Nate Ewan, and Nate and Maya Ewan became caregivers for Maya's dad during his final days, and he was up here in Bellingham. And when they took that task on, John took Nate aside and asked him a question, and he said to Nate, "Does this come as a burden to you, or is it something you volunteered to do because you wanted to?" Nate said, "Yes, it was voluntary and not a burden." And then John said to Nate, "That's what I thought. I respect that about you. It is a privilege taking care of a family, isn't it?" John and Julie's generosity also was shown in other ways. It was shown to me personally. A couple of years ago, I had my car stolen, and we couldn't find it. It took 6 weeks to find it. And so the insurance wouldn't close on it. And so we were without a car for 6 weeks. Well, John and Julie had a spare vehicle at their home, and they brought it around to us and let us use it in that period of time. So John and Julie were really like what it says in Proverbs 17:17. Would you like to have a look at that? I'll just grab it here and read it. It's in the book of Proverbs, chapter 17, in verse 17. It says, "A true friend shows love at all times and is a brother who is born for times of distress." So as a team, John and Julie were definitely true friends to a lot of people. So we appreciate that very much. John had very strong beliefs that he shared with other people. And those beliefs had a lot to do with the challenges that he was facing. For instance, John was facing illness and the possibility of dying, but he knew what Ecclesiastes 9:5 said about the condition of the dead. So that was very comforting for him. He knew that the dead know nothing at all. They are just fast asleep and enjoying a rest until they're woken up again. He also knew that death wasn't the end of it. And he would share this with other people too in his ministry and his preaching work. And that is brought out in the book of John, chapter 5, verse 28 and 29. There it says, "Do not be amazed at this, for the hour is coming in which all those in the memorial tombs will hear his voice and come out." John had full confidence that that was going to take place, that he would get a resurrection along with lots of other people who would also get a resurrection. And what did John believe about the type of world that they would be resurrected into? Well, he knew that Revelation chapter 21, verse 3 and 4 was a very important thing. So I'll read that to you. Last book of the Bible, chapter 21, verse 3 and 4. And this is what those who are resurrected, including John, will wake up to. "With that I heard a loud voice from the throne say, 'Look, the tent of God is with mankind, and he will reside with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them, and he will wipe out every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more, neither will mourning, nor outcry, nor pain be any more. The former things have passed away. So that's the type of world John is looking forward to waking up into. And what a pleasure that will be to welcome him back. When John comes back, he's going to need a guitar, he's going to need a lot of tools, and he's obviously going to be looking forward to teaching other resurrected ones all the things he already knows about Jehovah and his purposes. So in conclusion, I would just like to read a portion of a letter that was written to John while he was in hospital from a very close friend back in Eastern Washington. His name was Tim. And I think as I read this paragraph, you would agree that we all think exactly the same way about John. So here goes, I'm going to try. I was thinking about the time when Daniel was getting older and Jehovah sent an angel to encourage him and called him a very precious man. I think the same about you too. I think that Jehovah sees your loyalty and good decisions in life and sees you too as a very precious man to him. And I think that is how we all feel about John, isn't it? A very precious man. So at this point, if it's convenient for you, we'd like to sing a song together. And the song is number 140. It's entitled Life Without End at Last. And remember, John was a musician, so we have to live up to certain expectations here. And at the conclusion of the song, Brother White Beckworth is going to come up and say a closing prayer for us. And then after the prayer, if you'd just like to stay seated in your seats, we'll just have a brief announcement. So please enjoy the song and sing loudly, Life Without End at Last.